Hello and welcome to Todd Rolls Dice, where we're going to take a cheeky look at some reveals for Warhammer variety of, I can't remember what it is, 40k, AOS, Heresy, Black Library, Old World I think as well. We're over here obviously on YouTube. We'll see how this goes. First one of these I've done. It's not live because that was a terrifying thought. But we'll see. I'm going to talk over a lot of what they're doing because, hold on, is that a Dark Angel thing?
We do indeed. We've got stuff from Warhammer 40,000, Warhammer the Age of Sigmar, Warhammer the Horus Heresy, Warhammer the Old World, and some stuff from Black Library.
That's going to be stuff.
Black Library is going to be interesting.
Stuff you're not expecting.
I think that's a Dark Angel
we're here
mug.
this weekend because the
I
World
might be wrong.
Championships
I see
taking place
it's maybe Empress
in Atlanta.
Champions.
Right now, as we speak, as well as the Grand Narrative there as well. The Grand Narrative is taking place at Warhammer World here too.
I don't know, but yeah, so
this weekend.
I am.
I don't know what we're getting. Let's be honest.
So you're being
I actually like this. Looks like the same format as the last show. I enjoyed the last show. I know a lot of people didn't. I thought the format was infinitely better than the last one they did. And the two presenter thing, just chatting.
Looked forward to.
It's still corporate, but just chatting. It's quite nice. Krieg. I always start with 40k. Okay, I'm not a fan of the Krieg aesthetic. It's too World War I. That's a bomb, though. Oh, those cannons look glorious. And the riders look amazing. So this is the Astra Militarum army set. They do this quite frequently. New combat engineers with cool-looking shotguns. Death Riders. What's wrong with the horse? Lord Marshal, named Lord Marshal. Fancy Codex, and more. New heavy weapons teams. New Krieg command squad. They look cool, heavy weapons teams as well. In Death Atonement. It's basically, it looks like a Krieg version of the KD stands.
Yeah, they're finally here.
Are they actually going to show us more pictures though?
And it's finally time to unleash a death core.
So these are all
Krieg
plastic.
World, and that army set looks really cool as well, doesn't it? They are a much awaited for and beloved regiment, aren't they?
Yeah, we've had them in the
Those riders are nice. The horses are weird, but then they're not horses, are they? They're mutated things, mutated beasts.
In plastic.
Yes, alongside the Astra Militarum Codex, of course, and they'll be the first army of 2025. What a way to kick off.
First army of 2025.
First of all, before we go any further,
so probably end of January.
Krieg? How do they fit into Warhammer 40,000?
So, the Death Corps of Krieg are the regiments that are raised on the world of Krieg. Now, Krieg fell into civil war about 500 years ago.
I don't like the aesthetic. It's far too World War One. I like sci-fi stuff to look sci-fi.
And when the Imperium finally
I don't get gas masks. And I don't get shovels or entrenching tools or whatever you want to call them. But there's so many people that do, and so many people that love them. And I have to say, their kill team, the veteran guardsman kill team, beautiful kit.
Immediately, the
really nice kit.
This is great.
So this is cool. This is very nice.
Up to 11, and so now they
not for me. The only thing I'd want in here is the Codex, potentially.
It seems to me like it's a bit of a war of attrition.
This is very nice.
Maybe in the Krieg regiment.
Yes. So life for them is not necessarily.
And the artwork
cheap.
is always
so
gorgeous.
Not like a cult of sacrifice necessarily, but they've had it ingrained.
It's a Rogel Dawn tank because it's got the melter nipples.
Sell their lives in service of the Emperor in order to gain redemption for their ancestors.
Now, the armies of Krieg are a great representation of the armies of the Astra Militarum, of course. Regiments upon regiments of infantry, backed up by huge guns and artillery. And
well, they're the old Cadians.
That is the Astra Militarum tanks.
Oh, yes.
And
that's a very old picture because they're the really old Cadians
as well. Right, but let's take a look at some of the new miniatures we've just seen in that new army set. And up first,
that's why we're here.
These are incredible. These are the Death Riders. Now
they are nice.
In plastic. Who are these guys, Alex?
So these guys, the Riders tend to be a little more free-thinking than your average Krieg soldier. They're given a little bit more freedom in order to operate. It's from their ranks that most of the
That's a really nice glow-up from the resin, I think.
Now, you'll notice here, the Krieg steeds they're on look very much like horses, but they're deceptively not.
They're a bit weird, aren't they?
So they essentially roll off a production line. They're given subdermal armor, they're given rebreathers, and you can see there at the end of their legs, they're not hooves, they're claws. So they're a product of Krieg, whereby, life is a little bit cheaper than the tank. Therefore, we've got a mount, and it's got claws so that it can get over any kind of rubble or debris or whatever it is.
Okay.
In the way. And these
guys,
they do
cloning
the
Krieg.
Shock troops. They really pack a punch. How do they play?
On the table, they're actually quite a flexible unit, quite a utility unit. So the Rough Riders with Tiller we've seen before are just there to punch into a unit as hard as they possibly can.
Yeah.
But these guys have quite a bit more flexibility in there. They've got las carbines as assault weapons. They can
Oh, they're nice
carry,
las carbines.
they
Oh, I like
have
those.
The screening line rule, which lets them move after enemies have moved as well to protect their lines, and they can get bogged down into combat. Every single one of them carries a power saber, which is really cool.
Wow.
And they therefore protracted combat, so you can charge them in and lead them against infantry units rather than just try and destroy in one hit, which is nice. So lots of different uses for them, speed, combat, the works. Just great models. And what's nice as well is the Steed's claws actually have nice rules. It's got AP1 on the claws for the Steed. So it's sharper than a spaceman's combat blade, which is great.
Wow.
These are fantastic. I love the fact in particular when they're rolled off the production line, the Steeds.
It's a nice kit.
Terrifying.
It's a very nice kit.
Names. They're all given serial numbers.
Oh, that is horrible. 40k is great. On to the next model. Now, big guns never tire in 40k, and it's certainly true in the Krieg forces. These are the artillery teams.
They look better than the
guns,
big artillery guns that came in the Cadian one. I think they're very similar back end.
About the siege artillery,
but the front looks so much nicer.
Krieg tends to specialize, as we said, in siege warfare. And, if you're trying to attack a bunker or a fortress or anything, you need something that is going to smash apart the walls so you can charge in. This is exactly what these things do. Now, there's a couple of different weapon options for these.
So yeah, there are 4 weapon options for the artillery teams here. We've got the heavy mortars, ideally for just smashing heavy infantry away. The quad launchers are there for massed infantry. The multiple rocket launcher takes out tough infantry because it's anti-infantry 3+.
That's a lot of rockets.
My favourite, this huge siege cannon, which is just a devastating explosive charger. Damage 3 shots. Now, none of these are very accurate, but when they hit hard, which is great. Just nice.
That's siege weapons, isn't it?
Battlefield.
You don't need to aim them because you usually shoot them at a giant wall.
It's on a 130mm round base, which is monstrous. It's a nice little diorama for your forces as well. Really cool little bit of equipment and stuff at the back as well. It's really nice.
I like how the model is posed there using the cover of the gun as a shooting position as well. That's nice.
Combat engineers, Alex.
Those shotguns are glorious.
These guys look like they're running forwards, which isn't ideal for guardsmen normally.
No, typically a guardsman wants to be on a gun line with a lot of his mates.
Yeah.
But really, these guys, their duty is to go forward, to dig trenches, to clear wires, clear landmines.
I like those head swaps, maybe.
Job. But they've got a little bit more armor and they're equipped for.
I definitely have to do a head swap, but they look nice.
Flamers and shotguns and swords and lots of trench clubs.
They're probably terrible.
Pretty tasty in a fight, these guys. They've also got the scout rule. They can move before the game begins to get further forwards.
Nice.
The grenadiers rule lets them have the grenades stratagem for free. Here we can see this little remote mine, which is a really cool little attack that one of the guys over the controller just sends out, doing mortal damage to nearby units, which is just a cool little model and probably going to be my favourite of the preview, isn't it? Let's be honest.
That's a nice set. That's a really nice set, those engineers.
But leading them all into battle is the famed Lord Marshal Dreer.
Yeah.
What a model this is, Alex.
It's a nice looking model.
Varnon Dreer. Basically, he's achieved his position entirely through merit, as you'd expect from the Death Corps of Krieg, but he leads from the front. This isn't a general that stands at the back and orders his troops forward. This guy is going to be in the thick of the fighting. His mount, ES819, as I said earlier, they've all got numbers, not names, has fallen several times in battle, and the Lord Marshal insists that it is repaired and returned to him.
The fact it's called repaired rather than just healed.
Okay.
And so this has created this kind of myth about them that they are indestructible. But, Dreer is well aware that that's not actually the case.
Well, it's a nice little bit of narrative here comes in the gameplay, because this myth about him being indestructible, actually, he has a rule called tough to kill, whereby, like my Lord and Saviour, Ruta Gulliman, he can come back after he's been killed. Maybe.
Yes.
But he's particularly tough to get rid of.
It's on a roll.
Which is nice when the sort of the narrative marries up with the rules on the table. And his sword there is the Sabre of Sacrifice, is a devastating sword too. He's an inspirational leader for your forces. Don't run away when he's nearby, and can lead Death Riders units.
Seems pretty strong
as well, which is just great. Gives devastating wounds on a charge to a unit of Death Riders, which is really cool.
We've mentioned is just a stunning model. That base in particular, I can see.
Wow, the back of the horse where you can see the robot limbs,
you're absolutely right.
mechanics coming through the flesh.
Right. There's also other stuff coming alongside Death Corps of Krieg. Now,
this is really nice.
We've got the Astra Militarum Codex here. Now, we've talked a lot about the Krieg stuff, but of course, the Astra Militarum Codex will deal with the entire forces, the Cadians and other forces. It mentions all the regiments of the Astra Militarum in there as well.
It's a good-looking box so far. I don't think you're getting everything in.
The regiments, the fighting units, the rules for all of those, the history of its most important conflicts it's fought through in the past. And, excitingly enough, there's a brand new combat patrol as well called Drayden's Lance, which sees Rough Riders of Attila charging into battle, backed up by Kazakin and a command squad, which is great.
Yeah, this is an incredibly flexible combat patrol.
Interesting for a combat patrol.
Those Rough Riders give you a huge amount of speed, and the Kazakin form a really nice solid centre.
Kazakin is solid. Yeah, Kazakin are very solid.
Thinking about starting Astra Militarum. Don't forget the current Astra Militarum combat patrol is still good to use as well, so don't worry about that. And of course, the Codex will see every
Valkyries.
Rule, every unit.
I do love a Valkyrie.
We already know some really exciting stuff about how units are changing. The tank commanders, for example, a Lemurus tank commander and a Rogel Dawn tank commander are separate things now, so they can have their own rules. And the detachments in there are 5 different detachments for the Astra Militarum, depending on how you want to fight. For a combined arms regiment, you've got a siege regiment for all your big guns, the mechanized assault for jumping out of tanks. Hammer of the Emperor is just all tanks. Which has a really nice stratagem where your tanks can just roll through terrain like it was there. And last, a recon element detachment is basically all about your guys being camouflaged and using cover to the best of their ability. It's really great fun. Just any way you want to play Imperial Guard, you've got a choice there.
That's it.
Okay,
really like
I'm back on the Imperial Guard.
The stratagem allows you to fire into combat. You might risk your own guys, but it's worth it.
You definitely do risk your own guys. You're absolutely right. Yeah, your whole army can fire into a combat, but the unit, your friendly unit in combat, is back in trouble. But that's great. Other releases coming
that's how the Guard work, right?
Alongside the Astra Militarum release, after the army set, will include the new Death Corps of Krieg command squads, which is a gorgeous unit as well.
Very nice looking command squad. I wonder what it does differently.
That's not an officer leading that command squad. That's a commissar. And on the left is a commissar cadet as well. Why commissars here for the Death Corps?
So for most units, a commissar basically acts as a measure by which morale is kept by everybody.
You take the mask off, and this is purely me personally.
It's sort of the opposite.
You take the mask off, you put a different commissar head on. That's a really nice looking commissar.
Spending their lives needlessly, but perhaps a little bit more enthusiastically than other regiments, and so the commissars are often there to hold them back. You've also got the alchemist, who allows basically the entire unit to resist toxins because he's a chemical warfare specialist.
It's their version of a
World War I
medic, basically, that guy there, as well as all your veterans in there.
Nice pose, though.
Maybe my favourite Servo Skull in Warhammer 40,000, the Servo Skull pair, who are there to keep notes of everything with a little inkwell and pen.
That's it. You know this is a note to last because he's got the second servo skull, making sure it never touches the ground.
Super important. Also coming alongside is the heavy weapons squad. Of course, we've seen the Cadian heavy weapons squad before. This is the Krieg version with slightly different weapons.
They're nice.
There's 3 different weapon options here. We've got the twin-linked stubber. We've got the big old las cannon. You'll have seen those before in plenty of different ways. But exciting enough is the huge Krieg heavy flamer as well, which just looks great.
Okay.
You don't really think of having a heavy flamer as part of a weapons team like this, but as you can imagine, say you took one in a squad, it's that guaranteed Overwatch success.
I mean, take 3 in a squad, Alex, if you wanted to. Why not? These are range 18, strength 5, AP1, damage 2 flamers. Oh, that's absolutely devastating. Don't charge them, whatever you do.
Not bad at all.
See those. And there we go. That is all the new models coming for the Death Corps of Krieg, which is exciting. But there's more stuff coming in the festive period.
There is. So throughout December, on the Warhammer community website, there's going to be a series of downloads available, which are detachments for Warhammer 40,000 as some kind of Grotmas calendar.
Happy Grotmas, everybody. Throughout December, we're releasing 30 different downloads for Warhammer 40,000, all match play legal, all game legal. You can use them wherever you want to at all. And there's some really exciting stuff in there, including the index for the Death Watch.
Can I say Death Watch?
Death Watch players will be very happy to see there'll be ways that you can use your kill teams that you have in their new index coming.
Oh, you mean you're able to use them again?
Be excited too. There's 4 detachments coming for them, 1 for each of the Chaos Powers. What's really nice is that they've been future-proofed too. So we just seen the Astra Militarum is getting their new codex soon, but their Astra Militarum detachment they're getting during the Grotmas calendar is still legal once that book comes out too. So yeah,
so when you
interesting,
you can still continue to use these.
Absolutely,
something to talk about.
Right,
and free. Did they say free? It's WarCom download, so it must be free.
Old World.
Empire of Man. I know they're the ones with griffins, right? The terrain is great. The best thing about Old World is the terrain. But it's not a game I'm ever going to play. It's a nice looking model though. The griffin thing.
Yes, the Empire of Man returns to the old world, a much beloved army for the old world. And here it is with a whole swathe of releases. This is a really exciting one.
There is a huge number of kits coming back from this. And one of the best things about it is that this means you can build
look
a whole
old-fashioned as
Empire army
well.
entirely in plastic.
That is great. It's a really
Entirely
cool
in
thing to see.
plastic.
Many people who've played with their Empire in the
Wow.
past. won't
So there's a lot of it went
recognise
into
a few
Sigmar,
images,
didn't it?
if not all of them. It's just great to see them back on the table again. But for now,
fun
who are
models.
the Empire
I remember
of Man
these
at
from
this
years
point
ago.
in the old world, Alex?
So for about 1,000 years, the Empire has basically been a state of disarray. And after the time of the three emperors, we've had the Vampire Wars, and finally, there's now about 4 factions. And they're not in a civil war outright, but, you know, towns change hands and the occasional skirmish happens. So not everything is particularly peaceful.
Empire armies are made up of professional soldiers. There are blocks of state troops, missile
Oh, the
troops,
crossbowmen.
artillery,
Yeah, I remember the
cavalry,
crossbowmen.
and of course, fantastic monsters and war machines too. They're such a fun army to have, and we're going
Quite
to
a
see
mix
loads
of
of old
stuff
favourites
then.
coming back, including the state troops, the missile troops, the pistoliers, the knights, demigryph knights, and of course more exotic.
This is-
things
it's
like the
nostalgia,
steam
babe.
tank, the general on griffin, and the war altar are all coming back as well, which is really
Wow,
cool.
that
We've got some,
war altar I've
metal
never seen
kits coming
before,
back
I
as
don't think.
Right? Remember the Grand Masters of the Knightly Orders from the
Yes.
past? I do. I painted the Knights Pantheon when I was young. They're coming back. Warrior priests, Tucci.
I remember the
Guard on
priests.
way as well. Which
Don't
is
remember
nice to see.
them.
There's a strong Middenheim theme for this force this time around. We've got the made to order stuff with the classic Empire engineers, battle standard bearer, general on Griffin, the commander on Pegasus is
derpy
coming
they
back, flying
look.
in from the 90s. Some real classics. We're also going to see the Imperial ogres coming back. Now these predate even my Empire army. Great to see these coming back from the past.
And this
Okay.
guy, this is the one with the hand cannon, but there's also going to be hand weapons and great weapons.
Yeah, there's going to be a few options. Literally a hand cannon this guy's carrying. But, Alex,
They look
let's talk about the
very
star
of
the
their
show.
time.
It is, of course.
The war wagon.
The War Wagon is making
War
its
Wagon.
appearance back in the old world after not being available for some 25 years. It's just great to see. Now, this is a Forge World resin kit. It's actually a Forge World
Lot of resin.
remaster. They've taken the original kit and remastered it up, sharpened up a lot of the points, made the
Okay.
detail crisper. They've
Nice.
resculpted the horses at the front. Those are brand new. And this chap here is the engineer that accompanies them. He's a brand new model as well.
That's a cool
But
model.
it's just great. Now, I'm right in thinking there's lots of strange weapons on top of the guys in that little couple, right?
Yes, there is. So these sort of things fell out of fashion in the Empire. But then when Nuln came along and decided to deploy an entire fleet of them, everybody wanted a piece of the action.
You've got in there the man catcher, you've got the bombard launcher, the Hochland long rifle, there's a repeater gun and a hook halberd in there as well. All the experimental weapons together in one place just in case one of them explodes, which is nice to see. A great miniature.
Is
added
that
to
a
your
rule?
collection,
Can
very
it
soon
do
for the
that?
World. Wonderful to see. And of course, alongside all the releases, we have the Arcane Journal for the Empire of Man.
Yeah.
And naturally, it's got all the history of the Empire, the city-states, the geography, uniform guides in there. There's a historical refight.
I've
in
not
there.
seen
We can
what's
fight
inside
back
these
against the
arcane
beastmen.
journals.
And
But
new armies of infantry.
As a
in there
rule,
well.
the specialist
Indeed, so we
armies,
can,
specialist games team
Gun line there.
make really
And
good
there's
books.
also,
Go and buy
you can
Necromunda
field
in
any of
Middle-earth.
the knightly orders.
They each
Really
have their own
nice
special
books.
rules, which is nice.
Yes.
Yeah, so you have a nice Panther army, a Blazing Sun army, which is really cool. And there's some new special characters too.
There are indeed.
Yeah,
So we've got Harold
it's not for me,
Gemency,
but I think a
Great
lot of
Master
people,
Knights Panther,
who play
and
the
General
old world,
Hans
certainly, or
Von
who've been
Now,
waiting
we're
for
not
this,
gonna
will be
show you
very
pictures
happy
of
with
them
this.
Yet. They
All
are
the-
very
the
lovely, I can
familiar
guarantee
stuff
you this,
back.
But make sure you're keeping your eye on
Which
the
is good.
Warhammer Community website for more information on those very soon. But there's also a slew of new units we've never seen before in an Imperial army for Warhammer Old World. So yeah, exciting times.
That's a
Keep your eyes
tease.
on that and grab hold of that Arcane Journal when it's available. Now, from one old world to another, we're going to the Horus Heresy.
What is that tank? I love it. Legendary vehicles now in plastic. The Malkador Infernus. Wow. Wow. The Valdor Tank Destroyer. The Arvis Lighter. I remember that. In plastic. Nice. Weaponized Walkers. Oh, they're actually selling them with weapon sets. Oh, they're selling the weapon sets. Okay. Is that it? Okay, that's a big reveal. Lots of exciting stuff.
The Horus Lighter returns, the little pig that can fly.
What a great
Horus
kit,
Heresy.
loved by Horus Heresy
It is
fans all
indeed.
over. Wonderful to see. Actually available
That
in
is
plastic now,
it's
which is really
a
cool.
cool
for the first
looking
time
kit in
this,
plastic. That's
why it's
amazing.
so beloved, Alex.
So typically when the army wants to deploy something, they've got these massive landers. However, if you just want to bring, some bullets, some fuel, a squad, the Horus Lighter is basically the workhorse of the Divisio Aeronautica.
I remember using them in Aeronautica Imperialis quite a lot, and they're great in that too, but it's nice to see them here. They are a cheap transport flyer for your armies of Heresy. They can transport 12 solar auxilia models, and they can move 20 inches, which is fast. So ideal for a
They don't have any
combat
weapons,
squad or a
right?
command unit or to get a special unit out of combat as soon as they need to. It's just great to see. What's nice as well is the new model's got this chap in the back, modelled to be firing a huge laser cannon out the back as well.
That's it. And he's modelled directly in there, so he's hanging out. It's a lovely little bit of character to the model.
It's really nice.
That's kind of nice,
Also,
yeah.
I'm told that there'll be rules for that on the way soon as well, which is cool too. Great to have that in the game. But let's on to another couple of tanks. Always fun for Heresy. This is the Valdor Tank Destroyer. That might be one of the biggest guns I've ever seen. Tell me more about this thing.
What does it do?
These
Volcano
are based
cannon?
on the Malkador frame, named for the Sigillite. And this is an older variant of tank, which eventually will be replaced by
It
the
looks so
Lehman Russ.
much cooler than the
It's
Lemon
a little
Russ.
bit less reliable. However, it's bigger, thicker armor. At this point in time, it's got a lot more variants.
The Heresy
This
tanks
tank hunter one,
nice.
basically has a neutron beam weapon on the front of it. And
I don't
these are
care for
basically
Heresy, but
replicas
the Heresy
of a
tanks are
Dark
always
Age
nice.
relic, so they're incredibly powerful. And in order to power it, they've in fact had to remove the front sponson to fit in more power
It's
generation.
just a giant battery in the back, is it? To
Oh,
fire
yes.
that big gun. I love the fact that the Heresy weapons are called things like a neutron beam laser. It just does what it says on the tin. It's a devastating weapon. It's strength 10, concussive 3, AP 1, and the whole tank is armor 13 all round. So it's pretty tough too.
Means nothing
Don't
to me,
get
but I'll
touched
take your
by
word
one
for
of
it.
these, You're going to lose. Also on the Malkador frame is the Malkador Infernus, and this one
This is
maybe has a
mad.
different speciality.
Yeah, so we've gone from heavily anti-tank to heavily anti-infantry. It's got a massive flame weapon on the front. The carriage on the back contains a mixture or a series of fuels that have yet to be mixed that are pumped just behind the turret. And I was under the impression that maybe this was an element of safety.
Almost certainly not. It's going to be sort of saving fuel, isn't it? That's going to
Yeah.
be the way to do it. Yeah, it's not about safety at all. I love the fact it's got extra flamers on the sponsons just in case there's anything nearby enough that didn't get burned by the big cannon. This
That's
huge
cool.
Infernus cannon
That is cool.
that it's carrying uses the Hellstorm template, that gigantic, remember the old Apocalypse template?
Yeah.
That thing is like 18 inches long and it's strength 8, this flamer.
Jeez.
So yeah, it just burns infantry alive. Don't get near it. So up next, we've also got the new Doridio Dreadnought. This is the Boreas configuration. It's even more Covenant guns than any other Doridio Dreadnought has been before.
That's it. So basically, the Doridio is a stable firing platform. It was developed around the same time as the Contemptor, so it shares
I've
some of
seen
the
one.
features.
You already sell one. So
and
what's
early on in
so
the
different about
Heresy,
this?
It was, not necessarily in great use. But when you're facing Legiones Astartes and you need to bring as much firepower as possible, it became very popular.
It's just a wonderful looking kit. I mean, it's so unsubtle. Yeah, it's got guns and really big ones too. The Boreas configuration has these air defense missiles on top. It can carry 4 of them. They have the Skyfire rule that just shoots things out of the sky. It can also have the choice of carrying the Volkite Falconets, which have the Deflagrate rule, or the Arrakis Heavy Las Cannon Battery, which just blows tanks away. So really, really big guns on a really tough toughness.
I think it
72
looks
plus
stupid,
save
but I
portion
also think
platform.
that's the point.
It's just great. Really great. Get one of those in your force.
Comes alongside 2 weapons kits.
Of course.
So if you've already got a Doridio Dreadnought and you want to upgrade it to the Boreas configuration, there's a kit for that. And if
Nice.
you've got one of these and you want to convert it back, there's another one.
That's great. That means you can have real versatility in your modelling kits.
Oh,
and
nice.
you can really take to battle the one you want to use.
That's pretty cool.
Fantastic.
That's pretty nice.
Right, let's move from the Horus Heresy, and now we're moving to the Mortal Realms.
Right, come on, give me something good. I don't know why I'm saying that, because my faction stuff's going up for pre-order. Gut Ripper things. It's Orcs. Slitter Boss. Oh, it's an Iron Jaws Big Mob Spearhead. Iron Jaws Spearhead. Orruk clans. Okay.
Wow, the Orruk Warclans are here for the Mortal Realms, the brand new battle tome, cool new models, and lots of other things we'll have a look at in a second.
They're
as
the
well.
first
What's
one
nice
to drop
here
next
is
year.
The rules
Nice.
team have taken the chance to separate the factions out. So in that book, the Crawl Boys and the Iron Jaws are two separate factions, essentially two different armies that share a couple of things in common throughout the book as well, which is nice.
That's cool.
Up first, part of that is this new boss towers we can see here as well. This is the new faction terrain for the Orruks. It's cool, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's
it's
cool.
very cool. So this is the Scare Gob Totem. So this is the Cruel Boys version of this, whereby they'll put these up around their
It's just a
territories
nice
to
piece of
indicate,
scenery.
you know, this is mine, not yours.
Yeah.
They have a
It's a nice
habit
piece of scenery.
whispering, because it's not just a little watchtower. This is wrapped up in the winds of magic, and say an enemy army is approaching, they'll hear these whispers, the mists will start up, they might get lost in the fog, or you could put a boss up there to amplify everything.
You can put a boss up on both of these towers, but they become a shouty boss. And they have various rules that go alongside them. Let's have a look at the Iron Jaws version. This is the boss
cool as well.
tower. And similar sort of situation. They've built a huge tower here, but a bit less supple, perhaps.
Yes, whereby the Cruel Boys might have, you know, a bit of thought, a bit of planning, because they're the Morky element. The Iron Jaws are the Gorky element. And this is where basically the War Chanter has found a rock he really likes, or it's saturated in war energy. And rather than be a watchtower necessarily, the boss can go up here and can literally bully the winds of magic.
He does, yeah. A shouty boss inside the boss rock tower gets the aggressively bossy rule to literally boss around the enemy army, which is really nice as well. So faction train coming to us very soon. That's really cool.
I love
Also,
the weird, funky rules in
manifestations here
AOS.
as well. These are the endless spells used by the Orruk Warclans. Both the Cruel Boys and the Iron Jaws wizards can use these. And of course, on the right hand side, it's the
I like the
Foot
big
of
foot.
Gork, a famous
That's cool.
and beloved spell from the background of Warhammer here, and that literally stomps around the enemy army, causing devastation, which is great.
That's cool.
The Gork Roarer there, it's got the skull with the mists coming out of it, conjured by wizards to aid them in their magical spells, but at potential risk. Their head could explode if they imbibe too much of this, the magical smoke.
Very orky.
Nice.
Very orky, yeah. The Mork Spit Marsh is the last one here, and this transforms the land into a squelching swamp, which if enemy units go anywhere near, or heaven forbid through, they could be in real trouble. So that's really nice to see new sort of manifestations for the faction.
Nice.
Of course, we've also got the new spearhead coming for the Iron Jaws as well. You've been asking for it, and here it is. Every time I run an event, someone asks when this one's coming along.
Yes.
And it's right now. A bunch of Iron Jaws there, led by a mega boss. You've got
It just looks
teams
like a bunch of Iron
Archboys,
Jaws.
5 apiece, a unit of 3 Brute Rages and 5 Brutes for a seriously hitty spearhead.
That's it. You've got 4 units of infantry, so they've got to take a long time to get across the
Yeah,
table.
they really are. Well, you'd think that,
Wow.
but the Mighty Destroyer's battle trait rule lets them move in any hero phase. So they're coming at you in your turn,
That's
which
strong.
is terrifying. Also, in a game of Spearhead, lets them be quite maneuverable, which is always a bonus, but not that they think about objectives when it comes to a game of Spearhead. Of course, don't forget the old Spearhead is still legal to use. There'll be a Crawl Boys one there. The Fire and Jade book still has those in, so you can still use that. There's another new miniature coming here, Alex, the Hobgrot Slitter Boss.
Yes.
What a cool model, this guy. Tell me about that sword. Why is it dripping in whatever that looks like?
So these
That's
guys
his own
basically
blood,
lead
right?
the Hobgrot companies, and so they get the best gubbins, the best weapons, the best scrap, all of that, and they'll tend to grab the biggest weapon because obviously
It's a
that means
cool
you're
model.
the best, and they'll slather it in various toxins and stuff,
Nice.
just to
Okay,
guarantee that they
toxins.
win.
This has got a really nice rule that ties in with that called Toxic Stash, where once per battle it's got a chance of outright killing an enemy hero on a lucky dice roll, which is really cool. So that's coming to lead your Hobgrots. And also we've got the new battle tome, of course, which has everything you've come to expect from a Mortal Realms battle tome, all the history of the factions, the characters, their famous battles. Lots
Not
of
seen one yet.
information
I'm waiting on
battle
mine.
transformations, that
Waiting
sort
on
of
the
thing, all the
sleeves.
rules you'll need. The Path to Glory rules are in there too, and split between Iron Jaws and Crawl Boys, so you can choose which way you want to go. And there's some really nice bits in here as well.
cool.
One of the armies of renown is the Big War. Previously, you were able to mix all your orcs together.
Yeah.
Now you can with that Army of Renown, and that lets you use all of those together, but has specific battle traits, specific enhancements, that sort of thing there as well. And my favourite regiment of Renown is called the Hurtling Hogs.
Bring all the swine.
All the swine. Have more grunters in any of the destruction armies as well, which is just really
Nice.
fun.
That's great.
So there we
Nice.
go. That is the new Warclans.
I love the
coming very
stupidity of
soon.
it all.
And of course, we've got something else coming now as well. This is the new Path to Glory book, Alex.
Indeed. So this is Ravaged Coast.
Ooh,
and
fun.
We've previously fought in Hellcrown along the Ravaged Coast, which is basically that region in between the Nor and the rest of Akshi. We've been fighting in Emberguard, and we're right here in Hell's Claw, slap bang in the centre there. And this is basically a ruined city, previously Khornate, then Sigmarite, and now, up for grabs.
Nice.
And all 4 factions are basically trying to dig it up, take the Emberstone, and control this very important territory.
Path of Glory is a way of playing narrative games where you follow your heroes through a path.
That's what we want.
Quests,
Path to Glory all the way.
All written into this book. It's a very different and fun way of playing Warhammer Age of Sigmar if you're just used to playing match play. Highly recommended. And this book is chock full of background and bits and pieces for you to play your games at home as well. The
Sounds perfect.
is in there as well.
Sign me
so
up.
Create your own heroes. And the book actually contains
you can create your own heroes?
examples of converted heroes that people have done too, which is really nice to see. So really lets you stretch your hobby muscles as well.
I've been making them without rules, but that's even better.
Now, we've seen the Warhammer 40,000 getting their Grotmas calendar earlier on. Warhammer Age of Sigmar fans will have a similar sort of thing too, as they are beginning getting some holiday downloads too. There's 8 regiments of renown on the way. Again, these will be match play legal. You can use them in your games wherever you want to. 2 per Grand Alliance, which is nice. And a regiment of renown is a really nice way of adding other models from different factions into your army.
Yeah, adds a different flavour.
It's a good excuse to paint some cool models. So expect those coming for Grotmas for Warhammer Age of Sigmar, which is cool.
Nice, we're keeping an eye out for that as well.
That's not all for the Mortal Realms.
Nope.
We've got even more coming.
What is that? It was a cool silhouette. Savage Swarm of Gitz. It's the little Grotlings. I don't know what they're called. Grotlings on dogs. They look cool. Whoever designs these has just captured the weird. It's Gloomspite Gitz, right? Okay. Whoever has designed this has captured the stupidity of the Gloomspite Grots, Gitz, whatever they're called.
Yes,
on
well,
wolves.
we've seen the
Just
Orruk
wild.
Warclans, but now their shorter, meaner-spirited cousins are on the way.
Yes.
This is the new Gloomspite Gitz coming to the Mortal Realms. And
Nice.
leading the way are the Git mobs, who are these... Well, it looks like Grots riding giant wolves. Alex, who are these guys?
That's pretty much
They are
it.
cool.
So previously
They are
we've
cool.
been all about the moon clans, but now the Git mobs are getting their time in the sun. No pun intended. And basically they hate Glareface Frazzlegit. So this is the lighter fish. Hish and Orgu basically provide the night and day cycle in the realms. However, the lighter fish hurts their beady little eyes. And so they've decided that they're going to take it down. And so these guys wear loads of shiny weapons and armor, and that absorbs the lighter fish, hopefully weakening their mortal enemy.
They also use it as a weapon as well, don't they, to
Yes.
against their foes. We'll see that in a second. Some wonderful miniatures on the way. I wanted to just re-emphasise, by the way, that the Moonclan
Sorry,
stuff
my
is still in
group
this
chat
book.
is just
It's
kicking
still
off.
100% good to you, so don't worry, Moonclan fans, you're still involved. But the Gitmob
About
stuff,
the
let's have a look
reveal
at some of the
shows.
models coming in this army set. Now, these are the Snarlpack Cavalry. We've seen the Snarlpack Riders before.
Yes.
The Snarlfang Riders, sorry, which are the sort of the cavalry.
They look
these
cool.
are
They have
even
a
bigger
very-
Snarlwolves.
A very
with two
weird
Grots on the back rather
Mongolian
than one.
vibe.
Tell me about these guys.
So these are larger Snarlfangs, as you said, and basically the 2 Grots on the back have to raise the pup from birth in order to ride it. And this is one of those rare times whereby Grots have to work together, because if they don't, chances are they're going to get eaten, or the boss is going to remove them from play.
How many failed Grot teams have there been in the past?
We don't keep count.
I love the fact these mods are covered in spears and spiky bits all over them. It's just really, really great miniatures for them to charge into combat. Their Frazzle Burn Scrap rule sees them strike first.
They
if
do look
charged,
fun.
as they glare their enemies out with it, dazzle them with the light that they've stored.
That's it. You'll notice that as a running theme, particularly with the shields, that they absorb the light of Hish, and as they impact into combat, they basically discharge it and blind the enemy.
It's talking of absorbing light and
Okay.
stealing it. This is the Sun Stealer Wheeler. This is the new lightweight chariots coming along, built for speed and pulled by the Snarlfangs. They look like they're not just built of normal wood, though.
No, so these things are made out of wicker, and as you said, these are supposed to be really lightweight. But as you can see there, the little effigies of Glareface Frazzlegit, they will, discharge that light, and you've got a very flammable chariot there. So eventually, these things burn up.
They really didn't think about it, did they? Just a wonderful little kit, and it's covered in spikes as well. These
Interesting.
things have got a careening destruction rule. They do mortal wounds as they run over enemy units on the battlefield, which is quite good fun, isn't it?
Nice.
That's leading
Makes sense.
The force, the army set we've seen there. This miniature is Drogs the Sun Chomper. Looks like a big leader.
That's a
for the
really
Git
cool
mobs.
model.
Who is this guy, Alex?
Indeed. So this
Really
guy basically
cool
led the
model.
Git mobs from Hish into Akshi during the Age of Chaos. Now, as you can probably think, that was several hundred years ago.
Yep.
That is pretty old for a grot. And the reality is, he's not very old for a grot. When the first Drogs got hit by an arrow, his Snarlfang there ran up to the second in command and went, "Go on," and jumped on, and there was a new Drogs. And there has basically been a continuation of various grots that have taken on the role of Drogs throughout history.
So his Mount Jagged Snarl is actually the one that's been keeping things
so
together
he
all
was
that time.
born in Hish under the light.
Yeah.
He's really intelligent, and he's lasted a very long time. Really, he's the boss.
He's the hero with a cool little grot model that comes on the back for free. Once per battle, you can use the time to scar
That is a
rule,
really
where
cool
with
model.
By friendly units can run away from combat they are already in, which is nice. Really love this miniature. A really cool background for this one as well. And it's maybe not quite as heroic as the miniature would seem, which I like.
You'll notice something in the background of this artwork here.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Flying up in the sky. Look at this. It's the new Gitz Doom Diver Catapult, a wonderful recreation of a classic Games Workshop miniature, the Doom Diver here. We've
It's
seen
mad.
it in Warhammer
That's
for
mad.
30 years, and here it is with these wonderful interpretation, huge as well. Alex, why on earth would a grot put on wings and get inside this thing?
For a grot to volunteer
Because why
to be
not?
part of the Doom Diver crew, we've got to put a lot of emphasis on the word volunteer there.
Yep,
Rarely
for sure.
does that occur.
Yep.
So basically, he straps on wings, he puts on a metal helmet that again has absorbed the light of Hish, so upon impact, it explodes.
That's devastating. I love the fact
Nice.
there's a little tiny snotling at the back on the
There
mechanism.
is. So the mechanism is so unreliable that the only one that's allowed to use it is a snotling. They're the most expendable of grots.
I love it. The actual damage it does on the battlefield represents how big this miniature is. It's monstrous shooting attack. It does 4 attacks, rend 3, damage 3. But actually, what's nice is you can re-roll the hits representing the Doom Divers trying to sort of use their wings to careen into the action. And every time you use a re-roll, it loses some rend there. So it's just a really nice little narrative
cool.
piece and a wonderful miniature.
Yeah,
Great
I like
soundscapes
the
for
narrative
Gitz Army.
vibes.
Let's have a
That's
look at
very
some
cool.
heroes on some chariots. This is the Snarl boss on a war wheeler. Some Snarl bosses prefer riding ostentatious war wheelers, it appears, rather than riding a Snarlfang.
So the Snarl boss basically has to outsmart one of these alpha Snarlfangs. And if you've managed to get 2, you can get yourself a war wheeler. They tend to have the best gubbins, the shiniest things. And as you can see, his belly is looking rather large.
Yeah, it's a really nice little nod to some classic Warhammer, isn't it? So you've got quite the paunch on in there, isn't he? Bless him. It's a lovely miniature. And up next, we've got the other hero that's also part of the same kit. This is the Frazzle Git Shaman. It's a little wizard there on top of a giant skull. Why is he so high up, Alex?
Why
So
not?
the Frazzlegrit Shaman, as you can imagine, are obsessed with absorbing the light of Hish. And he's hoping that by being, 7 or 8 feet extra in the air, he might get a little bit of juice. But
Does it work?
well, that's debatable. However, being up there, it gives him a really good line of sight. He can see over the mists. He can see all the enemies. So it does help him in the end.
He's got to fall off quite regularly, though, surely. That doesn't look very stable. What a wonderful, wonderful piece. Now, there will be a Gloomspite Gitz spearhead
Good
on
fun.
the way. A
Very nice models.
themed Wolfie spearhead. It's not going to be released for a little while yet, so hold on for that one, folks. But
Okay.
just know it is on the way. But don't forget your current Moonclan spearhead with all those horrible rock trogloths. I've killed them once. I did that. I did it once. That's still legal to use in your game. No problems at all.
I like that they're
Let's
keeping
have a
all
look
of
at
the
battle
spearhead
tames
stuff,
as well. The last
just
thing we're
adding
gonna
to
talk
it,
about here, the
which
whole
is
book,
how it should
everything
be.
you want to expect
They've
from
designed
battle
spearhead really
tames
well.
in the Mortal Rounds, packed full of lore, who the Git mobs are, covers the battle formations for the Gloomspite Gitz, the Git mob. There's something called a Squigalanch in there, which is great, and a Trog herd. Yeah, I just have an army of squigs. Why not? That sounds fun. Painting guides in there too.
Why
Loads
not?
of rules for all the units, and your Path to Glory rules let you raise a Grot or Troggoth hero through the ranks of the Path to Glory, which is just great.
That's very cool.
Really, really cool.
Just fun.
It's time
Just
to move
good
from one
fun.
to another, as we've got some stuff coming from the Black Library.
We do indeed.
Right, what are they showing here? Is it just going to be books, or are we going to get models? Books. Stunning special editions. Oh, new Minka-Lesk, whatever she's called. I've not read any, but she's Imperial Guard, Cadian. You're doing a tease
there we go.
for
It's
it.
the Black Library celebration. Of course, happens every year, but this year's a little
It's a
special.
bit shit,
isn't it?
wasn't it?
Yeah, so we're getting an entire week rather than, a day or a weekend. So we've
Nice.
got a huge range of books coming. As part of that, we've
New
got
models.
Imperial Infantryman's Handbook.
Now, that one's actually coming out alongside the Krieg stuff we saw before, a little bit before the celebration,
indeed.
but
So
we'll talk
sneaking-
about that.
sneaking in ahead.
What is this one?
And so this combines the Uplifting Primer and the Departmentum Unitorum Handbook, basically in one solid tome. This one is slightly Krieg themed, so this is previously owned by a trooper, picked up by the quartermaster, and eventually will be redistributed to the troops.
It's great to see. It's, of course, the books that we've seen before,
Yes.
but just repackaged into this nice little book, new version. And of course, don't let the commissar see you without your copy, of course. What else we've got coming for the celebration?
So we've also got the art.
I always
of
wanted to pick one of them
40,000,
up.
which is over 200 pages of beautiful images. We've
That might
got
be nice.
Antidark and Red Tithe from Robbie McNiven, which we've seen before. These are the Carcharodon Astra books, but these are returning in special editions. We've got the Shade of
Okay.
Cain, which is basically Malineth. Gotrek's companion has
Yes.
deserted her post and is free now again in the world. She can't return to the Agents of Azir. Gotrek doesn't particularly want anything to do with her. And the world has changed a great deal since she departed. And this is basically
I know
her
she
trying
is.
to make her way through. We've got Hell's Last, which is the
That's a
next
cool
in the
looking
Minka-lesque
picture.
series from Justin Hill. We've then got the
Is she
Gotrek
upgraded
and
then?
Malineth omnibus.
she-
Now this puts together 8 novels and short stories of Gotrek's adventures in the mortal realms, and it comes to
Right.
nearly
Minska-lesque,
1,000
she's
pages.
obviously not
Yes,
just a
so if
trooper
you're looking
anymore,
for
I
something
take
to
it.
read early next year, those Dark Nights.
I need to read those
doesn't
books.
Keep you going.
That's fantastic.
some
stuff.
point.
Of course, there's more coming for the Black Library
I'm
celebration.
on an
but we'll
AOS
reveal
kick
those
at the
on
minute,
community
so-
website at some point soon, for sure. There we go. That's been a wonderful preview. We've seen some really cool stuff there.
There's been some
We've
good
seen
stuff.
Old World, we've
Not a
seen
lot
Death
for
Corp,
me,
we've
but I
seen
wasn't
the
expecting
vehicles of
anything.
Horus Heresy. We've seen the Age of Sigmar stuff, of course, both the Orruk Warclans.
And Sigmar stuff was the best.
Gloomspite Gitz. Had a sneak peek
The
at what's
Krieg
coming
looked
over
good.
the Grotma's calendar.
Oh, yes.
Now, normally
But-
that would be enough for a preview,
Yeah,
wouldn't it?
that's a lot.
They look the
Quite a
best.
bit. But it's
AOS
Christmas.
stuff.
And we're feeling quite generous. So here's some more stuff.
Is this the tease for what's coming 2025? 40k. Emperor's Children, right? We know that they're coming. Oh no, Swooping Hawks. Phoenix Lord Bararoth? Means nothing. They're all dirty Xenos to me. So this codex will be the one after Warp Spiders. Okay, they're an old kit, aren't they? It's nice that we get a new one, I guess. Phoenix Lord Licase, Elf, Aeldari, whatever. So we're getting Krieg, Imperial Guard, then we're getting Elves. New Fire Dragons, they look very similar to... Fuegan was shown off earlier, wasn't he? He leaked. All of this stuff was shown off. Oh, the elf stuff, it all looks very samey to me. Assaman. I don't know. There's a lot of named characters and a lot of individual troops coming. And then their codex, obviously. With an Emperor's Children picture on the art? Maybe?
Wow.
From the webway, the Eldari have returned.
Here they are.
Yeah,
We've been sneaking and teasing
elves.
about them. We've mentioned a
Not
few
for
things.
me.
Yeah, and we've seen that Fuegan model before.
Yeah. But finally, the entire Eldari are here. And I tell you what, Alex, there is a war host's worth of miniatures coming
yes.
our way. Let's take a look at what we've got. Now, you've mentioned Fuegan. We've seen him already a little bit before. This model is just absolutely
It's a cool
beautiful.
pose.
Tell me and those watching, who is Fuegan? Why is he a
It is
big
a
deal?
very cool
So he's one
pose.
of the Phoenix Lords. And these guys were basically the original exarchs of the Aspect Warriors. And every time they die, another one takes the armor and basically takes the place. So it's almost like this combined spirit of all these warriors, all this experience. And Fuegan
That's
the
kinda
Burning
cool.
Lance, he basically embodies the act of oblivion that could bring peace, because they all embody a different aspect of Calum and Shakane, the god of war.
So he's like, when he's playing 40k, Fuegan's like, if I kill the entire enemy army, there's no more conflict anymore.
Yeah, there's peace.
Great. I like that guy. He carries his custom fire pike, Sear Song, the most devastating melter weapon in the game, pretty much. It's strength 14, damage D6, melter 6. It's just amazing. And his big axe as well,
Wow.
don't get near him. So near and afar, he's a problem. Just a wonderful miniature and really nice to see. Sculpted banner as well.
Oh,
I love a
yes.
sculpted banner. Good to see that. But of course,
Yeah.
Fuegan leads the Fire Dragons.
Indeed.
Another new plastic kit.
So these guys, again, they embody that idea of destruction.
Yeah.
And
They just look like
kind of
the current Aeldari. Is it the Guardian Warriors or
to understand
whatever they're
to shoot
called?
to destroy an enemy
I don't
war
know.
machine or tank.
I
And the Exarch
very
there in
rarely
the middle,
looked at
the Exarchs also
Aeldari
have some
stuff.
past lives involved in their armor. Is able to do that for even tanks he's never seen before.
That's so cool. There's nowhere to
As
shoot
sculpts
it. There's no soft spot.
and
It's
as
fantastic.
models,
the whole unit
they
carries
look very
fusion
good.
guns, which are melter weapons by another name, really. And if you've ever fought against Eradicators for the Space Marines, these guys have a similar rule called the Short Destruction. They can re-roll
Not for me.
everything. So they're going to kill what they
Jesus.
shoot at. What's really nice
Okay,
as
so
well is there's a new weapon
Eldari
option
have
for
been
the
a problem
500
throughout all of
They've got
10th so
flames.
far.
So they can have flames
And now
too as
they're
well.
making
So
them
do you want
stronger.
to take a fusion gun? Maybe have one there for maybe persuading your opponent not to come anywhere
That sounds
near you.
like an amazing
And
idea.
The Exarch has different weapon options. You can carry the giant fire pike or even a dragon axe for devastating close combat attacks too. So there's a really nice plastic kit with lots of different options in there. Really nice to see them in plastic. Also coming in plastic, it's more Aspect Warriors. It's the Swooping Hawks. These guys look drastically different, Alex. Tell me about these.
Yeah, so these guys basically wear incredibly lightweight armor, and you can see with those wings, they're able to take to the air and give that aerial support. They can scout out a little bit, but what they like to do is they like to go really high up. And so if you're looking up, there's just this tiny silhouette above you that strikes down and wipes out everything.
I mean, they look okay.
They are carrying las
They're all
blasters,
jumping
which is
off
a lovely little blast back to
broken
the past of Eldari.
elven
They shoot
scenery.
4 strength, 4 shots apiece. They can drop grenades on people as they fly over as well. And the Exarch has a choice of lots of different weapons, including the Sun Pistol and Power Sword, which you can see
But
them
they're all
carrying
jumping
there.
off rocks.
They're just a really cool utility.
Seems to be a
and Alex, they're
fascination,
all
and they
standard
look better than
heroes.
some of
Gives
the
them a
jumping
nice
off
little,
rocks poses we've had in the past.
Really
But
beautiful models in that iconic teal armor color scheme. Just great to see. But of course, they also have a Phoenix Lord, and here he is in plastic. This is Baharoth.
Yes, Baharoth, the Cry of the Wind.
what was wrong with
Trained
a
Azuman,
clear
as all the
plastic
Phoenix
stand
Lords did. He
where
was
they're
the
actually
first of their
flying through
kind.
the air?
And
What was
Baharoth
wrong with
the
that?
First to basically master the abilities of aerial combat.
That's why he's got these big old beautiful wings on the back there, and he carries a terrifying weapon called the Fury of the Tempest. It's like a super duper Hawk's Talon weapon, and he's just devastating. A great model having your force makes your Swooping Hawks even more agile. He can help them fly off the table and come back in strategic reserves later on, which is lovely.
I mean,
Just a
fun
beautiful
rules,
miniature
but
and
making
wonderful
them
table
really
as well.
strong.
It's worth mentioning that all these Phoenix Lords are both devastating in shooting and combat. While you might think this guy's specialised in, no, they're all just good at everything. But then they're Eldari, right? You mentioned him before. Let's have a look at
500
this
points
is
a model.
Azuman, the Phoenix Lord of the Dire Avengers, and what a miniature that is.
He is absolutely brilliant. He was the first of the Phoenix Lords, and
I
basically
do like that
mastered
pose.
all
He looks a bit like a
Kane's,
transformer,
sort of
but that might just be the colouring and the weird
taught the
face.
Phoenix Lords various elements of that, so they each embody one aspect of it, but it's Azuman that kind of embodies that central doctrine of battle, that calm, strategic mind.
Okay.
As you can imagine, for a mentor of the other Phoenix Lords, he's absolutely devastating on the tabletop too. The Bloody Twins, his personal shuriken weapons there, are,
like the cape.
damage 2. And the Sword of
It's a
Azuman
nice
that he
looking
carries there
cape.
has 6 attacks at strength 6, AP 3, damage 3. He just cut Terminators in half with a single sweep. And fair,
Wow.
he's been around for a few hundred years, so he knows what he's doing. Just a wonderful miniature and a great model on the table, and another sculpted back banner, which I'm here for. I love those banners. Coming alongside these releases is the new Eldari Codex as well, and it's a bit of an overhaul for the Eldari here. Now, we're expecting new
That
rules and
is
attachments and things as we were before.
an Emperor's
And
Children
all of the
Marine on the
things you've got to
floor,
see
isn't it?
In the book there.
Surely.
There's a couple of things as well
Is that a
pointing out here.
tease?
First of all, the Strands of Fate rule they had before has been replaced with a rule called Battle Focus. Strands of Fate let you
Good.
use those dice to predict the future, as a Farseer might do. But Battle Focus instead teaches your force to move more with more agility around the table. So really playing on that Eldari aspect of being super flexible and super fast, which is nice. Don't worry though, Strands of Fate is still around, but only in one of the detachments, the Seer Council detachment. And it's changed
Okay.
a little bit. Now, talking of detachments, there are 7 in this book, which is really cool. Going
lot.
from the War Host, the Wind Rider Host. If you want an army of Wraiths, it's there for you. If you want an army of Harlequins, they're in the book as well, which is nice to see. And the
Okay.
really one I wanted to point out here is the Devoted of Your Need, the Yanari units, because the Harlequins and the Drakari units you can use in the Eldari forces are in the Codex itself.
So you've got all the Harlequins, all
Good.
the Drukhari in
So
there,
they
you
should
don't need to
be.
worry about bringing, other battle
Three
codes.
books, yeah.
It's all solidly in.
It is indeed. It does mean that the Aeldari Codex is a hefty tome.
Chunky.
It's a big old chunky tome, but it's all in there in one place, which is really good to use. And yeah, be excited about that. That's really cool.
Well, that's how it should be. All of the rules for an army should be in the army's book
best till
that you've
last.
spent 40 quid on.
Last unit of Aspect Warriors we haven't seen.
Obviously,
here they are.
Games Workshop.
It's the Warp Spiders. Alex, who are these guys?
They
So
look a
these
bit
guys
weird.
basically embody the path to victory through defense. They're incredibly tough, but they're also
They're the teleporty
got a fair
guys.
bit of shooting and combat in them. However, their main trick is with those backpacks. They're able to jump into the warp very briefly
Yeah.
and essentially teleport somewhere else.
That sounds
Which means-
dangerous, man.
Yeah,
That
they
is
can
kinda
arrive
cool.
unseen. However, Eldari souls are really in demand by Slaanesh, and so to spend any time in the warp whatsoever is incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, those warp generators that they carry on their backs give them a rule in the game called Flicker Jump that reflects what you just said. And they can move across the battlefield up to 24 inches, which is monstrous. And they all carry
Wow.
a Death Spinner, which is basically a souped up flamer. So imagine the utility that has in the game. But of course, if they use that warp generator to do that Flicker Jump, there is, as you mentioned, some risk to the unit. They might not
Good.
make it out alive, which
I
is
like
cool.
that.
The XR's got loads of options here. You can see they've got a Power Blades and the old Death Weavers there. Other
I
options
like
include
that. That's a cool
Spirit
model with the
Rifle
blades and
a
the
whole
two
bunch of
guns.
Power
That's
blades where you
fun.
can get up to 10 attacks for your Exarch in combat, which is great,
Jesus.
even though they can't charge when they've used Flicker Jump, unless you happen to take what I think is my favourite new miniature of the release. This is the Warp Spider Phoenix Lord Lycus.
That's
Tell me about Lycus. Alex.
pretty
We
cool
have
model.
waited decades
Really
for
have.
this.
Yeah, we have.
So Lycus, the Whispering Web, is the Phoenix Lord of the Warp
That's
Spiders.
the best
and
miniature
basically, she's
of
one the most
what they've
active
shown
of
off
the
for
Phoenix
the
Lords, because
Aeldari.
they're all
That's
out and about in
amazing.
the galaxy in various ways, shapes, and forms.
Very
However, she
Spider-Man-esque
spends
with the
a huge amount of her
pose.
time in the warp, incredibly dangerous. That is basically the embodiment of Kayla Chicane's willingness to do anything to destroy the foe. So she'll appear on battlefields across the galaxy, unasked for,
Nice
unaided,
model.
and as you said, will accompany a great range of warp spiders to
That
slaughter
really
everything
is
and
just a
disappear straight
nice
back in the warp.
display
Absolutely
piece.
incredible miniature. I love it bursting out of the warp there on the model itself, and absolutely monstrous in the game as well. She carries Weave Render, that's her sword. It's terrifying. And her rule, if she joins you as Warp Spiders, they can use the Flicker Jump rule and then still charge.
So if you take that Exarch with the
That
extra
sounds quite
attacks,
strong.
It's a problem. It's a real problem. So yeah, look out for her coming soon. It's a wonderful miniature. What a way to end the preview. That's fantastic stuff. Thank you so much for watching.
Okay, so we've had nothing for
don't forget
40k,
there's
but then we've had
information
loads of
about all
40k
the
in
stuff
this. So
we've seen
next
here
year's going to
today
be
over on
40k.
the Warhammer Community website. Make sure you get the extra pictures, extra information as well. Don't forget to follow us on our social media. See if I can remember them all. We've got Facebook, we've got X, Instagram, Threads, YouTube. I think that's all of them there.
No Blue
All
Sky,
latest
yeah.
Information, catch up with us there. And of course, we've got some stuff coming on Warhammer Plus quite soon, Alex.
Oh, yes, indeed. We've got a whole new, slate of shows for seasons.
About
coming.
fucking time. There's nothing on there now.
Easy, really. Thank you all so much for everyone who's behind the scenes helping with the stream. Really appreciate that. And if you're there this weekend at the World Championships or the Grand Narrative itself, have a wonderful time. You're there now. You're there right now. How are you even here? This is crazy. Thank you so much for joining us. man. It's been a
I prefer
wonderful
these
show.
pre-recorded,
Thank you,
I
guys.
think.
And we'll see you next time. Happy holidays.
This is definitely the best way they've done the shows that I've seen. More interesting, and I think Nick and Alex, they kind of work well together. They've finally got that chemistry between the two presenters that has been missing for quite some time. And they are actually showing off the models. They're not just talking about the stuff with the games designers, which I find fascinating and has a place. But that should really be a WarCom video that pops up, or a YouTube video that pops up nearer the release of whatever they're talking about as an interview with the developers. Shouldn't be what your preview shows are built around. Your preview shows should be showing off Krieg, brand new models. I mean, look at some of these. Sculpts are just amazing. Where's that Slittergrot thing? Can't find him. There he is. Like, just stuff like this that's new, that's fun. We don't talk about Old World and Heresy on this channel. I like the terrain. It's obviously the same rock, and they've just got a faceplate that goes on it. So the same... I mean, if you just had a couple of those, you could make some fun terrain features. Not even if you're fighting Orruks. Orruks, whatever they're called. You just have a lot of fun. And then the endless spells, probably needed. The Yellow Tide. And these were fun. I really like that. Again, it's a heroic model for that faction. Probably the leader. Wants to be a centerpiece, focal point for the army, as well as pretty good rules-wise. But that pose... I'm not bothered about the guy on the back, but the wolf is so cool. Really, really cool. And then these chariots and wolf riders. These are really nice as well. And then an army of squigs. They're well painted. They're really cool painted. Striking colours. Then we got a load of elves. This is the first one. It was about 55 minutes, this preview. They got straight into it. Don't know what was the highlight. What was the highlight? Not the Heresy stuff. What would I want to play? It's probably the Path to Glory book, because my AOS faction is Dark Oath. The Christmas stuff is pretty cool. That 40k and AOS are all getting new detachments and things for Christmas. That's cool. But obviously we've got Imperial Guard coming for 40k. Whole new Krieg as an army faction, done in plastic. But also Aeldari teased. Actually, yeah, that's the model of the preview. That model is just amazing. That's one Aeldari model that I like of all of them. They are nice models, they are nice sculpts, they're just not for me. That looks cool. I'd even consider picking that up and painting it. I don't know why, but I'd even consider it. It's really cool. Yeah, pretty solid preview. All told, I do think that Nick and Alex do very well. They just have this... Yes, it's scripted. Yes, they've got points they need to hit, but I think there's enough of them comes through of their personalities and their enjoyment of the hobby. And, you know, Alex talking about the narrative stuff because that's what he does, and Nick talking about the rules because that's the other bit that's left over. There's a little bit for everyone. If you don't care about narrative, you get a little bit of an idea of rules. But pretty much every unit that's shown off, I think these are done pretty well. I think they've found the sweet spot. They could always be better, but then we could say that about Games Workshop in every aspect, apart from the miniatures. Couldn't we, really? Yeah, I think there was some good stuff on it. I didn't know what to expect. We got some fun stuff. Definitely. Reveal of the preview for me is whatever the warp spider woman thing is. Can't even remember her name. But that's cool. And we have a slight idea of what's coming over the next 3-4 months. Because December's pretty much going to be a quiet month, I think. Now this gives us a good idea of what's coming for 40k, for Old World, for... I mean, Heresy wasn't a lot, was it? 2 tanks, a flyer, and a repeat of a dreadnought, and some weapon packs to customize your dreadnought. Yeah, but at least it was something, I guess. But it's the future teasers as well that stand out. It's nice that they've been telling us this stuff. And their little tease for Black Library wasn't really worth having on the poster. They didn't give us a huge amount, but I suppose they were filling time. But yeah, no, that was pretty good. Let me know what you think. Overall, I'm really interested in what you guys think of just the overall feel and delivery of these preview shows. We've had 2 like this now. Do you prefer them this way or not? And also, what was your favourite reveal? Or what has got you excited for Warhammer in 2025? Because let's be honest, none of this stuff is coming out in the next month. We'll see. I reckon Imperial Guard or Krieg, probably 2nd, 3rd week in January. Aeldari a month after, maybe. And then there'll be some AOS late January, early February. We also have the Kill Team stuff that was revealed previously that hasn't come out yet. We have Necromunda stuff being shown off all the time on WarCom articles. So they'll be drip feeding those out as well. We have new gang book for Necromunda. So there is actually quite a lot coming for other games as well. Lord of the Rings is getting a whole new redo. I think that's going to be out December. I think that will be the last release. Pre-order-wise, I think that'll be the last release in December. I really do hope that Kill Team is January. Warcry is quiet. Underworlds has just had a massive release. There's more going up this weekend. That's one thing I was trying to look at. You've heard it here first. Somebody asked in the group chat if anybody knew the prices of the new Underworld sets. And I didn't get an answer. I didn't ask the question, but there is an answer there. So we'll see tomorrow what the boxes of the 4 warbands are. Because I think they live or die by the price, basically. Because not everybody's going to want all 4 of the same faction. But that's a whole other conversation for a whole other day. Yeah, this was good. Nothing for me as someone who has Dark Angels, Slaves to Darkness, Dark Oath, and a little bit. I'm branching out into the other chaosy stuff. I've got a little bit Stormcast. I would probably do a Stormcast army at some point, purely for battle reports on the channel. That's sort of me where my head is at the minute. The guard stuff's nice, but the Krieg isn't the kind of thing that I would buy into. Although I do like the Krieg models that they've shown off. Yeah, no, it's a good thing that they can show off reveals for factions that I am not that interested in, or models as part of a faction I may be interested in, but not actually interested in the models for that part of the faction, but still enjoy the preview show. I think that's a win. And they've last preview of the year, I believe they're finishing on a high, I think. But yeah, as I say, let me know in the comments what you think. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.